Why batch, you ask? Let me tell you a little story about the Easter that I got the genius idea to make mojitos made to order for the family, for everyone that we invited, which was maybe 20 people. So if you're unfamiliar with a mojito, let me just say that it is a labor-intensive drink. It requires muddling, it requires assembly, and it's not the thing to do one at a time for a party. So imagine everybody lined up in a line, and I muddled and I mushed, and then I handed the first person in line their mojito. And then I went down the line of like 20 people. And by the time I made the last one and thought I was off duty, the first person I'd made the mojito for was ready for a refill. I would not wish this on my worst enemy. So that is not for you. You being the wicked little genius you are going to batch. This is episode 119 of Multi-Passionate Like a Boss, and I'm your host, Jenny O'Connor. I'm a writer, entrepreneur, and certified shiny object lover, and I'm obsessed with finding the easy way to live the dream. So I decided that I wanted to do a holiday survival guide for you, Boss Fam. And I began the research process like I always do, which is by seeing what else is already out there on the topic. And when you Google holiday survival guide, you get 128 million results. So clearly this is a topic that people care about and feel compelled to share hacks around, but the list of things that affect people around the holidays is so broad and extensive that to cover it all would require a 4-part series. For some people, it's grief that they feel this time of year, mourning loved ones that they've lost or relationships that have ended. For others, it's spending time with family members who they'd rather not be in the same room with. For some people, it's overeating and overdrinking and feeling like shit as a result. This year is going to be especially hard for people because the dollar doesn't go as far as it has in the past. A lot of people are struggling simply to make ends meet, never mind bestow lavish presents on their loved ones. Almost every single one of us will experience some degree of stress this holiday season. Even my best friend, who lets nothing get under his skin ever, waits until the last possible second, because he's a guy, to go Christmas shopping. So that means that he's literally out there in the mayhem on the 23rd of December, which, as you know, is like literally the worst thing you could possibly do to yourself. So since I have such a colorful array of career titles from past lives, and each one of those taught me a skill or several that is useful around this time of year for dealing with whatever it is that the holidays might bring up for you, I decided to devote an episode to the stuff I know that might make your holidays easier. These tips will not cover every problem that comes up, but they're things that I'm uniquely qualified to offer advice on. And I think it's fun because it gives you a little insight into who I am while becoming also a little more ninja this holiday season. So let's dive in. Many of you know that I taught at a cooking school for 6 years. And the lessons that I learned from that job are many, like plan ahead, prep ahead, freeze things, batch things. Also, do not cook multiple things simultaneously or with a house full of people unless you like ruining and wasting food. This time of year, like if you are good at that the rest of the time, multitasking works for you, don't count on having the same natural abilities this time of year. You will get distracted and you will burn the appetizers. Like my mom is a really, really incredible cook, but the number of times she's like, I burnt the cookies. I left the room for 1 second. I, made a quick phone call. And it's this time of year because we have so many things on our minds that we don't normally have weighing on our minds. Also, set a timer, even if you don't normally need to. Same reason. Food's too expensive to waste. So try, if you can, not to do multiple things at the same time, just for November and December. The best chefs in the world get understandably flustered this time of year and make amateur mistakes. So the only hope for the rest of us is to take it one step at a time. Really just kind of apply that mantra to everything I'm about to present to you in this guide. Okay, Let's go back to prepping, freezing, and batching. Much of the holiday meal might need to be made in real time, but appetizers and cookies are super make-aheadable. My mom starts baking in mid-November and freezes everything that she makes, the cookies. She gives cookies as gifts. And she also bakes a bunch of them for a holiday bake sale. So she starts the process early, freezes them in large Tupperware tubs, and they hold up wonderfully. So it saves her having to bake 50 different kinds of cookies during the busiest week of the year. You can also just make and freeze a bunch of cookie dough ahead of time and then bake everything at the last second. Be aware, though, that cookie doughs that rely on egg whites rather than butter for the volume and the structure and the texture, so things like macarons and meringues, those don't freeze well as a dough. So for those, you'll need to bake them, let them cool completely. That applies to anything that you make if you plan to freeze it, and then wrap them really well and freeze. But what if you also had a super easy go-to appetizer that you could pull out of the freezer when you get invited to yet another holiday party and they ask you to bring a dish, or when unexpected guests drop by, or when your family is complaining that they're starving, or any of those other delightfully unexpected things that seem to happen a lot this time of year? At the cooking school, we made what we called gorgonzola shortbreads. Stay with me if you just heard the word gorgonzola and like shriveled up inside yourself. Do you like Cheez-Its? Because that is 100% what these are. They're flaky, they're buttery, and they are to die for with herb-infused batch cocktails, which I'm going to tell you how to make next. And you don't even have to use the word gorgonzola if you happen to know you have friends and family that will recoil from that. When people say, "What is this?" just say a gourmet Cheez-It, because no one's going to turn that down. I am not going to read you the ingredients and prep instructions because that sounds like a boring thing to do on a podcast, but I will tell you that this recipe has 6 ingredients, can easily be made gluten-free, and it can be cooked pretty much straight from the freezer in a pinch. So if you make this now and you have it in your freezer all holiday season, you can get the word that you need to have something for a party in 2 hours and you can make this happen. So if you think this sounds like something you would like to try, download the free companion guide that I created for this episode that gives you everything you need to know to whip up multiple batches of these puppies and handle your holiday party contributions like Martha fucking Stewart. Okay, now let's talk batch cocktails. Why batch, you ask? Let me tell you a little story about the Easter that I got the genius idea to make mojitos made to order for the family, for everyone that we invited, which was maybe 20 people. So if you're unfamiliar with a mojito, let me just say that it is a labor-intensive drink. It requires muddling, it requires assembly, and it's not the thing to do one at a time for a party. So imagine everybody lined up in a line, and I muddled and I mushed, and then I handed the first person in line their mojito. And then I went down the line of like 20 people. And by the time I made the last one and thought I was off duty, the first person I'd made the mojito for was ready for a refill. I would not wish this on my worst enemy. So that is not for you. You being the wicked little genius you are going to batch. So this cocktail recipe I'm giving you is called a rosemary pomegranate gin fizz. You can make it with vodka if you're not a gin fan, but I personally think gin is so much more interesting and it really plays nicely with the other herbs in this drink. Like I think if you're going to make a drink with an herbal component, that gin is almost always going to just be a more nuanced, interesting choice. But hey, I'm a gin drinker. If you hate it, go with vodka. So batching involves mixing ahead of time 3 ingredients: rosemary simple syrup, and I'll put the recipe for that in the guide, lemon juice, and gin. Then you top it off with some fanciness that ups the elegance quotient. So imagine a big pitcher with a spigot on it, and I'll put a link to my favorite one in the guide, filled with that concoction that I just described. So the recipe is literally so simple, a toddler could do it. It's 1 part sour, 1 part sweet, 3 parts alcohol. All right. So you just think of it as a 5-part mix. 3 of those parts are alcohol, 1 sour, 1 sweet. It creates balance. That totally makes sense, right? So if you're putting a 750 milliliter bottle of gin into your batch cocktail, that's 3 parts already. So you need 1 part, so 250 milliliters, which is approximately a cup of sour lemon juice. And then you need another 250 milliliters, 1 cup of rosemary simple syrup. So picture your party, the bar area where you're serving this batch cocktail, as an assembly line. And if you think your guests will be enjoying themselves too much to do anything complicated or follow instructions, I made some instruction cards. They're little like fold in half tinted cards that label these instructions. You can print them out, cut them out, and put them on your bar, and they're adorable and they're holiday themed. So it's super easy. You don't have to do any extra work, but walk through the assembly line with me so you can see it in your mind's eye. First, you will set up rocks or Collins glasses, and they're different. Rocks are short and squat. Collins are long and skinny. Either one will do. And set those up next to an ice bucket filled with ice. Next to that, you're going to put a pitcher with the mixture that we just described. All right. So you're going to take your ice-filled glass. You're going to fill it 3/4 of the way from the pitcher. Next come the garnishes. All right. So you're going to top it off with a splash of pomegranate juice. So for a whole batch like this, 1 16-ounce bottle, a small bottle, is all you need because it's just a splash. And this part's kind of critical because it should just make a thin layer of red on the bottom and the rest should be clear. It's a beautiful layered cocktail. That's one of the things I love about this, is that it's so pretty. Then you fill the glass the rest of the way with soda water. And then you top it with a few pomegranate seeds and a sprig of rosemary, both of which you can have like in little small dishes at the end of the assembly line next to the straws and the napkins. And that is a complete circuit to make a cocktail. So you might be wondering, why not add the pomegranate juice and the soda water to the pitcher with the other ingredients? You can, if you are just looking for the simplest way to go, that's definitely it. But here's why I don't like to do it. I told you earlier, the drink is really pretty because the juice sinks to the bottom. If you mix it, if you put the pomegranate juice in with the rest of the concoction, you do not want to let it sit at the bottom, because the first few people who serve themselves will only get pomegranate juice and none of the other stuff. So then you have to stir it to incorporate everything completely, which is fine. It's just going to then be a pink mixture. And I just like the layered effect. So that's the reason for the pomegranate juice. The soda water you can also add, but again, I'm not a huge fan of that, because if you have any leftovers of this, anything that's in the pitcher at the end of your party, you can just pop into a mason jar and put it in the fridge and drink it over the next couple of days. If you add soda water to it in the pitcher and then try to save it, the soda water is going to get flat, and then you're going to have to add more to create bubbles when you make the next batch, and it's going to get watered down over time. That's the same reason we don't put the ice in the pitcher. We put it in a bucket next to the pitcher. So does that make sense? If you just decide that like simple is the way to go, and or there aren't going to be leftovers, like, if your family and friends leave leftovers of booze, my family and friends really don't. So decide accordingly based on what you're willing to do. But just know that I've taken all of the extra legwork out of it for you, and you can just cut out these little signs, just arrange it all in a row, and it'll look beautiful. And it'll just make these beautiful, elegant little drinks. So this cocktail served with the Gorgonzola shortbreads will knock people's socks off. It is such a delicious combination. So just trust me and try it immediately. And remember that ratio of 1 part sweet, 1 part sour, 3 parts alcohol is how you make any drink under the sun that has a sweet and a sour component. If you want to make it in batch form, I mean, honestly, that's how you make a single drink too. But your 3 parts alcohol is 1.5 ounces shot of alcohol, and then 1/2 ounce of sour and 1/2 ounce of sweet. But anytime you want to batch cocktails that are meant to be balanced, sweet and sour and booze, follow that ratio. 1 part sour, 1 part sweet, 3 parts alcohol, and you will be golden. So since we're talking nibbles, the witch in me would like to tell you about a new tradition I am implementing with my family. We could all use a little abundance this holiday season, right? What with inflation and all. And even if you don't believe in magic with a K, I think that this little ritual I'm about to describe is a sweet pause in the middle of the mayhem to show gratitude. And gratitude is 100% essential in calling in the abundance you desire. It's also a really quick and easy way to pull yourself out of a funk. It sounds like the last thing you'd want to do, but you'll be surprised how quickly you can kind of shift gears on your emotions if you just remind yourself of the things that you're lucky to have, to be in the presence of, and whatnot. So this has to do with pecans. The pecan tree and pecans themselves herald wealth and financial security. So they bring relief to us in the form of monetary or physical comforts. These are the metaphysical properties. And again, you can believe in this part or not. It's still, the ritual is still beautiful. Pecans remind us to relax and enjoy life by graciously accepting the gifts that we're offered and celebrating all that we have accomplished. And who doesn't need more of that in their lives? So here's how you create your own ritual for attracting abundance and for both you and your family. That's kind of what makes this great. Leave a bowl of whole unshelled pecans on your kitchen table, and I'll drop a link for where to get those in this guide as well. Next to the bowl, have a pen and a stack of paper notes, like Post-it note sized. And then every time you take a pecan from the bowl to eat, replace the pecan with a gratitude note. So write something real quick, just jot down something you're grateful for, fold it up into a little square, and put it back into the bowl. And so since these are pecans in shells, you might need to have a nutcracker handy. And because they're pecans in shells, it's not a bowl of shelled pecans that people can eat really fast by the handful, which would then make this trading a nut for a gratitude note potentially tedious. But the one, like, you have to slow down and eat them like more mindfully if you're cracking them open. And I just love the idea of trading each one out for a gratitude note. So over time, you're going to end up with just a bowl of gratitude notes. And they're awesome to read aloud during a family gathering or anytime you just need a reminder of all of the things that you have to celebrate. You can even start a gratitude scrapbook and collect these notes to read over the years to come. By reading them aloud, you are telling the universe what you want more of, and the more you send out, the more you'll get back. So isn't that great? I don't know. I just think it's a beautiful little thing that you can incorporate into your own family traditions that just will make you pause and be mindful about what is good about the holiday season, especially if you are someone who is prone to think that there isn't that much. So, continuing on the eating and drinking train, let's talk about lessons I gleaned from my life as a private chef to people who had food allergies. Before we start, though, let me just state for the record that the following is designed to entertain and inform, not provide medical or health advice. Always consult your doctor when it comes to your personal health or before you make any changes to your diet, exercise, or lifestyle. Okay, disclaimer stated. So, when I was working as a private chef, my clients, all of them across the board, lived in a constant state of discomfort. Virtually everything they ate made them feel bad. If you don't experience this regularly, you're so lucky. Like, if you aren't one of those people who eats and their stomach instantly hurts, count your blessings, because as someone who's been there, like, you just start to assume that food makes your body feel bad. That's no way to live. But even if you're not, even if you are lucky and that doesn't happen to you around the holidays, it probably still does, right? We all experience this around the holidays because we're eating greater quantities than we normally do. And that gives us heartburn and indigestion. We're eating way richer foods than we're used to. Like, how many of you know that you have a dairy intolerance and you still eat so much cheese you can't see straight at the holidays? Like, half of my family members. And it's almost like we can't not do it. We're all in the same boat together. But I think you'll agree with me that there's nothing worse than feeling sluggish from basically the third week of November to the 2nd of January. And nothing is a shortcut to being grumpy and having low self-confidence and low self-worth because your clothes don't fit and just wanting the family to leave so you can get started with your cleanse and your planning and your sober January. So I'm going to invite those of you listening to pattern interrupt that this year and set yourself up to feel better. So think about, is there anything that you consume in your normal life that just makes you feel good? Like, are you one of those crazy people who loves salads? I actually do love salads, but they have to be made for me. I refuse to make myself a salad. For whatever reason, it doesn't taste good if I make it for myself. But maybe like me, this time of year, all of the citrus that's in season, at least here in North America, it's probably different if you're in a different part of the country, but that citrus fruit is like, I could eat it every day. I could eat gallons of grapefruit. So think about something that just like feels fresh and nourishing. It could be chicken soup, if that's your jam, or even like simple bone broth is so healing to the gut. So in things like that, a go-to for me is cashew yogurt with peanut butter protein powder and like frozen berries and hemp hearts. Hemp hearts up the protein ante. And all of that gives me a slow released energy because I'm adding the protein and it's not just carbs. I don't add any added sugar. The frozen fruit is the sugar in there. And it's not real dairy. I have to be careful. I mean, I'm one of those people who eats my weight in cheese around the holidays, but really shouldn't eat that much dairy. So this particular snack always gives me energy. It doesn't have real dairy. It doesn't make my stomach hurt afterwards. And it feels nourishing and it feels light. Can you commit to making one meal a day during the holiday season that nourishing item? So a green smoothie every morning for breakfast, or a little snack pack of veggies and hummus if you know you're going to be running a gazillion errands. And you could just have that in a little cold bag with you so that you don't make that starvation-induced run to McDonald's. So think about what that could be for you that you could just tote around with you so that you're never going to end up like desperately eating a Big Mac. The point of this exercise is not to deprive yourself. Do not try to diet. That is not what I'm suggesting. It is to give yourself the gift of something you like that also supports your overall gut health. And gut health has everything to do with your immunity. It has everything to do with your well-being. So this is an important and simple, just this one small thing. And you don't have to avoid the rich foods the rest of the time, but make like your breakfast or your lunch every day something that you can mindfully consume that you know is going to be nurturing to your entire body. Just something that future you will appreciate that you decided to do, and then just commit to it. And since we're not fans of rules around here, and you're probably going to overindulge no matter what I suggest, have remedies on hand for when you feel the worst. So here are a couple of my faves. Activated charcoal will detox you fast if you drank too much last night, or if you ate something that doesn't agree with you. However, if you take medications or birth control pills, read the link I put in the download because it stipulates when you can take those medications, like how many hours you have to wait between the activated charcoal and the meds so that it doesn't render the meds ineffective. So that's super, super important. You heard me say it here. This one is my favorite, and maybe something that you guys don't know about. There's a product called Never Too Hungover. They've changed their name to Drink Aid, and it has a little white cross on it, like pharmacies in Europe do. And it's a little bottle. They sell them here in local grocery stores and liquor stores, but it's also on Amazon. So I'm going to drop a link for you. This stuff is amazing. So when I lived in LA, my neighbor sold this stuff, and I used to get the things you take for granted when they're happening to you and you just don't stop and consider that you're taking them for granted. He used to just give me cases of this stuff. I drank a lot more back then. But it saved my life. It's crazy. So it's a little tiny like shot, like those 4-hour energy shots. It basically looks like that. You are meant to drink it before or during. It's too late if you have awakened hungover, then you need some other remedies, and we'll get to those. But if you know it's going to be a long night, you can drink it before you go out. It tastes and looks like lemon lime Gatorade. So it has a great taste. It's sugar-free. It's made with all natural ingredients, although my brain breaks a little when I look at the neon green to try to deduce what the natural ingredients are in there. But look, this isn't something I'm saying use as a crutch every single day of your life. During the holidays, cut yourself a break and bring home some remedies that are just going to make you hurt less. Okay. This would be my go-to. You can also, Pedialyte works too. And I mean preventatively, like drink it the night before you go out. But Pedialyte is definitely full of sugar and coloring and mostly shit that I don't want in my body, versus Drink Aid is supposed to be milk thistle and vitamin B. Maybe the vitamin B is what makes it. Oh, when you take vitamins and your pee is a different color, that could definitely be part of it. Anyway, if you're willing to drink something lime green, I highly, highly recommend this product just to get you through the holidays. If you're opposed to neon yellow, I get it. That's fine. Just keep some cold coconut water on hand. It is brilliant for hangovers, and really just anytime you're feeling dehydrated. So if you suffer from muscle cramps, or you like woke up with a Charlie horse, if you notice your pee is bright yellow, you're dehydrated. If you have an inexplicable headache, you are most likely dehydrated. So coconut water is brilliant for this. I recommend serving it cold because it's not always very delicious if it's room temperature. If you have heartburn and cannot find any Tums, like this happens to me only when I'm at parties. I swear to God, I don't get heartburn at home. I don't even keep Tums in the house, but then I go to a party and I instantly get heartburn. Find the baking soda. Almost every single house has baking soda, and put a tiny amount, like a half teaspoon, in a tiny glass of water. It doesn't taste very good. It's pretty salty. So you really want to make it like a shot. Do not fill like a 16-ounce glass and then try to drink that, because that would be disgusting. You just need a half a teaspoon in like a couple ounces of water. Shoot it really fast so you don't have to taste how salty it is. And then I recommend removing yourself from the party for like 2 minutes to let it do its magic, because it will instantly neutralize the acid in your stomach, but that will make you burp. And I've had the experience where I was in conversation and it came on so abruptly that I just sort of like burped really obnoxiously in someone's face. I don't recommend that. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. So, go into the loo, give yourself a minute or two, and then come back out and you're going to feel so much better. Lastly, remember, and I know you know this, partying is hard on your immune system, and in tandem with the cold this time of year, that's going to make you more susceptible to getting sick. And nothing's going to ruin your holidays faster than being sick. So even if you don't take vitamins during the rest of the year, consider taking some this time of year during cold season, because of all the extra stress, because of all the bad eating that we're doing. Many of the vitamin C supplements on the market are full of sugar, airborne, emergency, gummy, anything. And we're eating so much sugar already. Like, why not skip it? Why not skip the products that are like laden with that stuff and check out something called lipospheric vitamin C. It's the nutrients, the vitamins itself are encapsulated inside liposomes, which maximizes how it gets absorbed into our body. Because if you think about so many of the things we consume that go into our stomach and then get attacked by stomach acid, often that renders them not super bioavailable. Like a lot of the potency gets diluted because of that process before it ever gets into our bloodstreams. But these liposome encapsulated nutrients can basically bypass that process without getting broken down. And then we're absorbing way more of it into our system. I'm going to link to the product that I use because it is highly effective. I legit never get sick. And I definitely think that this has to do with why. It's a gel that comes in a little packet. I squeeze it straight into my mouth. Most people complain that it doesn't taste good, so they don't like to do that, in which case squeeze it into, again, just a couple ounces of water or juice and then shoot it, because it is a gel. It's not meant to like dissolve into the liquid. So it's going to be kind of suspended in there. It's a little oyster-like. Don't psych yourself out. Just take it. It works like a charm. So that link will be in the guide as well. Okay, Boss Fam, I'm making the executive decision that this episode needs a part 2, because if you're squirrel brained, I'm guessing you're not psyched when a podcast episode is an hour long. So let's call this the food and fun edition of the Holiday Survival Guide. And stay tuned for next week when you will experience the mental health edition. Perhaps not as fun sounding, but probably more important. Am I right? If you guys enjoyed this episode and found it helpful, would you please share it with other multi-passionates? It's the season of giving. So share this with your hard partying friends that need to learn about the magic of drink aid. And don't forget to grab your free copy of the Holiday Survival Guide. It has the recipes and the printables and detailed instructions on how to do everything that I described in this episode. And you can get that today at jennyo'connor.com/holidays. And until next time, consider these holiday gift suggestions. To your enemy, forgiveness. To your opponent, tolerance. To your friend, your heart. To your customer, service. To every child, a good example. And to yourself, respect. Now get on out there and do the thing.